how Blizzard solved the MMO problem.
World of Warcraft has created an inescapable bubble.
Oh,
Final
God.
Fantasy XIV is about to open the floodgates and iterate on its most popular feature. Guild Wars 2 is adding raiding back and it's giving player housing. And Destiny 2 just made its key expansion feature more accessible than ever before. Ladies and gentlemen, the winds are changing. And perhaps irrevocably. Speaking of MMOs, this video is brought to you by Elder Scrolls Online. I've jumped in for the very first time, added it to our MMO collection, and their Gold Road expansion, which has a whole bunch of stuff.
Preach quits WoW, gets hair back, and becomes skinny. Dude, he looks great, though. He actually looks really good.
Especially some really deep stories and their side content that I wasn't expecting. It's such worth checking out if you're looking to investigate the Elder Scrolls universe. Their new zone is Westweald, where you get started. A mystery character has arrived. A prince forgotten, and memories to be found and rediscovered, and all that kind of thing to uncover. But of course, on top of that, they've got a brand new 12-man trial to be checking out, a whole bunch of new zones.
Actually looks pretty
and within those regions, players are going to be introduced to new characters, challenges, rewards, armor sets, and stories. And additionally, new delves, public dungeons, standalone quests, and Miramar Incursion world events, which I've checked out as well. Loads to be excited about. Check out the link down below, and a big thanks to Elder Scrolls for supporting us in our MMO adventure. You may not...
I'm not too sure if Preach still plays well. I think Preach has reached like a point now where he kind of just plays it whenever there's new content, and then whenever like the hype kind of dies, he jumps to something else, right? But he still plays. It's like just like in a different way. He's not like full-time WoW streamer and player, right? Yeah, it really is separatist, and I get that.
I've noticed if you've been playing one of these four giants in the MMO market, of course there are other big names, and we're going to be watching how they respond to what these guys have done. So what is happening? The MMO world has been, relatively speaking, stagnant since 2004 in terms of major genre-changing moves. It often gets glossed over, but WoW's major chess move wasn't just great combat for its time and a decent world. It was actually accessibility. WoW was responsible for bringing MMOs to the general masses. Your grandma could play WoW, and does.
Dude, I was about to say, there is a grandma streamer. There she is. WoW grandma, dude. She's actually a gamer, though. She pushes keys and shit. She's badass. What?
Compared to the ultra-degen nerd-exclusive world MMOs lived in before, it was now so easy and less punishing that it was the point of mockery from the true gamers.
LOL. LOL.
Okay, bro, you're level 1, man. You're fighting the first mobs in Teldrassil.
Maybe this is like how you're supposed to play, like... No, it's not really any harder like that. I mean, I should take my...
Yeah, it is the same rotation in Molten Core, to be fair. That is true.
Balls out, like... Oh, I can, like, play with my balls, like... Yeah, my balls are playing, like...
Okay.
But as we know, it didn't matter. The game was insanely populated now that casuals could enjoy it. The gameplay, rock solid, and we know it did very, very well. But what...
Dude, 16 FPS? What the fuck?
Happened since then? The TLDR is people wanted some of that money that Blizzard was shoveling into its greedy mouth, and many attempts were made to take the crown. Off the top of my head, Age of Conan, Matrix Online, the Warhammer MMO, Aeon Online, Terra, Wildstar, all have fallen.
I played Warhammer Online, and I also played Age of Conan.
By each of them bringing something new and unique to the table. Two things here, right? I'm obviously aware there are hundreds, if not thousands, of MMOs that are just trucking along merrily all day, every day, right now, right? Old school RuneScape is doing great. I recently discovered, while making this, that Neocron, the first ever MMO I ever played, still live, still getting patch notes, still getting server updates, all the business. And after a little Google, it seems it has an active player base of around 35 people, and it's doing okay.
35 people though, come on. Age of Conan wasn't that long ago. 2008, so 16 years ago.
Success is relative. I'm saying you don't consider yourself a failure on YouTube because you're not getting Mr. Beast numbers, right? Second thing, I did list a lot of dead MMOs, and I know those games will have die-hard fans who truly believe they didn't have the right moments, the right time and place. This should have been great. It was everybody else who sucked, all those kind of things. But ultimately, my friends, they died for a reason.
Yep.
And there's always going to be fans. There are people who like certain things. There are people out there who probably like Will Smith's After Earth.
What?
I'm not a coward!
You get my point.
Wait, what was he about to do?
So, what's the problem, and how has it changed the genre? Player retention. MMOs have all concluded the same thing.
Okay.
If people's friends stop playing, or your world becomes empty, then more people leave at a faster rate. It's a domino effect all the way down. When guilds collapse or the content is simply so bad it can't even tempt the loyal to stick around, then disaster inevitably follows. Now, it used to be that you could get away with mediocre content or massive content droughts and still be fine. And that was mainly because there wasn't much else on the market to really satisfy that itch that MMOs provide.
It's really not like that anymore now. Dude, now you have to have constant dopamine getting injected into your veins. That's why we have so many versions of WoW now. So there's SOD, there's, you know, Cataclysm, then there's Era, then there's like retail WoW, and like I guess they want people to constantly hop back and forth between all of them, like in a hamster wheel, right? Because if there's not enough content, people will just quit. But yeah, that ruined it though. I think it's like, it's really making people burn out really hard. Like, because like there's like almost too much, and it's like just so overwhelming, right?
More on that later.
I burned out. I think a lot of people are kind of burning out a little bit.
But now that isn't the case. The gaming market has some insanely good options to turn to when players start experiencing friction in their favorite game. So, how does the MMO makers solve this? Let's call it problem A.
Okay.
It's physically impossible to create enough quality content at a pace that players won't consume faster than you can make it. MMO gamers are notorious for gobbling up story, raids, dungeons in a matter of weeks compared to the months that it takes to create.
Bro, these days it's days. Like, there's a new thing coming out, days later, it's done. Except in retail, because the content is actually really hard in retail. But in like, you know, the classic versions, it does not take long. So
then we get solution A. And it seems like the logical fix. Create a constant gameplay loop players are incentivized to do, but can't complete for a significant amount of time, aka a grind.
Yeah.
It makes sense, of course, but inevitably, it has one final conclusion, which would be summarized as WoW's Shadowlands expansion, with a seemingly never-ending amount of chores to do.
Chore gas.
Now, I know, we crap on Shadowlands a lot, and rightly so, but more importantly, it's become a case study for many games on what you shouldn't do, what doesn't work. I have had several off-camera discussions with leaders of major video games that you've probably all played concerning Shadowlands specifically from a business standpoint. Let's just say it was a lesson learned across the industry. So now we get to the really cool stuff. Well,
okay, you know it's serious when he whips out the billboard.
Cool for us players,
like
but absolutely terrifying if you are making a new MMO. I'm really fortunate. I've managed to sit down with some of the absolute paragons and leaders of this genre, IRL, face-to-face, on and off camera, and they all have very different takes on how to solve solution A. And all of them have an advantage that no other game that is being made now, or is currently out, has access to. And they're all utilizing it in different ways.
Yeah, now, he looks great. He looks fantastic.
Let's start with World of Warcraft. You might remember when I sat down with Ian and he said this about Torghast.
You had a long day at work, then you went out for dinner with your friends, with your loved ones, whatever. You come home, you're exhausted. And you realize, like, oh crap, I haven't done my Torghast run for the week. Exactly. Does that make you feel good about World of Warcraft in that moment?
No.
Absolutely not.
And so, why are we doing that to people?
So what we do know is you can't make enough content to satisfy an MMO audience. But we also now know you can't force them to grind. You can't have them logging in every day and being upset and disgruntled at the content they're being made to do. So how do we solve this player retention problem? Well, let's start with Blizzard's idea. Blizzard obviously saw the success of Classic. It did very well, and we can see that on the sub-number metrics that were released recently.
And popped off.
But they then realized something else. They have 20 years of content. 20 years of polished, refined, beloved content just sitting there, not doing anything. And that's when it dawned on them. Can't just keep re-releasing Classic. Sure they will one day, but you can't spam it. But what you can do is add new things. And
Season
that
of
is what
Discovery.
we've seen happen in the last 6 months. These are your WoW Classic Hardcores, Plunderstorm, Mop Remix. Now, of course, we have no idea how many people just stick to retail, but definitely some of them also want that glam and transmog from Mop Remix, and probably also crossover like this. The exact numbers are, of course, remaining unknown to us. But what we do know is that they hope people who play Classic will come over to Mop Remix to get some rewards, then get a free character for the War Within, and go that way. And now they don't need to pollute retail. They don't need to fill it with all those grinds and things. Because if you're tired and frustrated with retail, guess what? You've got Season of Discovery over here. So you can now go over to this area. Go and play Season of Discovery. Oh, there's now new stuff coming with the seasonal. I could go there. Or maybe now, I like Season of Discovery. I can go all the way into Mop Classic, WoW Classic if I want to.
Dude, this makes me stressed out. This is actually makes me stressed out. It does.
Well. The important thing that Blizzard's done that's changed the game, and literally no one else can do this. No one. They can keep you inside
the WoW circle,
the WoW bubble. People paying a sub to play here are worth the same as the people paying here and here. A sub is a sub.
It kind of does work,
your money isn't going to some other company.
What's the problem? A lot of content is great though. I mean, dude, we've had the most content for WoW we've had in years. It is absolutely insane. But I also do think a lot of people are kind of burning out a little bit on it because of that. But there are so many versions of WoW. No matter what you're into, you can find something to do, which is crazy, right?
Comfy, familiar blanket of World of Warcraft is now available everywhere without the need to spam one of these with update after update.
Just a little bit of everything.
Switching MMOs is a really big deal for a lot of people.
People
do not like change. MMOs by nature are habitual. Have you ever had a large group of people swap games for a single day? I have. It's a clown show. The UI is different. I don't know the stats. I don't know what the classes do at endgame, and they ditch that game quickly. Blizzard's bubble is growing faster than it ever has. Let's go back to droughts and content releases mentioned earlier. Look at this. Typically, Blizzard is utter chaos.
Dude, look how many months there goes here without anything new. I bet if he's going to show it nowadays, it's going to look freaking crazy compared to this.
In the past, Blizzard has averaged a new content patch every 120 to 150 days, with some absolutely hilarious outliers, like Siege of Orgrimmar being the last patch before the 429-day gap until Warlords of Draenor.
That's insane.
Or, of course, more recently, a single patch for Shadowlands took longer to make than the release of all the patches of Warlords of Draenor combined. But what is this?
Dragonflight.
Since Dragonflight,
that's insane.
That average, that 100+ days, has dropped to 26 days.
What? That is actually insane. Every 3 weeks, there's new content. In any of the, like, in all the versions, right? So, like, something new happening.
Utter obliteration and a fraction of what it once was.
That's insane.
It's really interesting when we look at these numbers. You can see the number 77 pops up a lot. 77 days, 11 weeks, right? More than to be coincidence. There is no doubt the internal target for content release is 11 weeks. We see this as far back as Wrath of the Lich King. And when they don't hit that target, it's typically pushed to somewhere around 144 days. In other words, pushed into the next patch window. It doesn't always work for sure, but it's pretty close. Now it gets more interesting. We can see that the Classic team and the retail teams seemingly do work with this same schedule in mind of 11 weeks each. However,
they're on different
they don't always hit those targets, but now it's for different reasons. The change in that window is simply due to overlapping releases of new content, as there is so damn much coming out. It would
there has been like some points where like there's been something in Classic, but then there's also something in Sword, and then it's like you can barely even get to play both because like you have to like hop back and forth so fast, so you don't even get to like play one of them.
Literally be releasing on the same day. Let me give you a clear example. Wrath of the Lich King Classics ICC patch, something much looked forward to. We're going to get those Deathbringers wills. If it would have come out on the 11-week cycle like its previous patch did, it would have released on the exact same day as they were releasing 10.1.7, the Dawn of the Infinite Heroic, and the Dream Surges patch in retail WoW. This is speculation, of course. I've never had this confirmed. But as we always say, Blizzard never does anything in small moves. Yeah. And this improvement of content cadence is impressive and very on brand for the big boy. There needs to be a word of warning here, though. Based on what we've seen, Blizzard is risking putting themselves back into a Shadowlands daily scenario. Yeah. You can predict that guy who's finishing work and loves World of Warcraft, he can't wait to get home, and he plays everything. He might end up in that scenario that Ian mentioned. He's got some things to do with his family. It's too much. He's also got his Cataclysm raid tonight. He's also got to get onto retail to do his vault. He's also then got to get onto Mott Remix in order to do his bronze dailies because he's after that mount that he's been farming for literally years. It might not happen. We don't know what the crossover of players is, but there will be some. And for
I think the crossover has gotten a little bit better over the time, but I still think there's a ton of people that like there's classic players that don't play anything else, and then there's the retail Dragonflight whatever the players, and then they play a little bit, but it's like it's still very divided, right? For sure.
Frustration and burnout could get very real. Blizzard has changed the game. The ecosystem they've created cannot be matched by anybody who has an MMO now, and certainly any MMO that's coming in the future. Look at it this way. Dragonflight has released 20 patches since it launched. Only 9 of them were for the new, current retail game. 11 of those patches are using old, reused, modified assets
half of them
for content that has just been sat on their servers for years and years at this point. And I am not bashing them for this. It's working.
Yeah, it's
fun. It's exciting. It's interesting. They have managed to create a world where their games are not polluted, not bogged down with needless content. They're just releasing it elsewhere and keeping their players going round the ecosystem over and over again while staying within their familiar comfort zone that MMO players really enjoy.
I think that's the main thing, is the comfort zone, right? People don't really mind swapping within WoW because it's still kind of WoW, right?
And they're doing all of this without giving a single penny to another company. But the other titans of this genre have also been paying attention, and they have come up with ways of defeating this problem themselves, using their strengths in a way that probably no other MMO in creation now or coming in the future could possibly compete with. And we will be looking at that in part 2, because this video is already very, very long. I do want to thank ESO for sponsoring this video, and you players of ESO, you better watch out, because I'm going to see you soon.
It's an interesting video, and he's very right. It is crazy when you think about like where WoW would have been if they wouldn't go down that like rabbit hole of classic and everything like that. It would probably have been a whole different thing right now, right? Watch part 2. I don't think part 2 is out yet. This released like literally yesterday. This was like a yesterday video, yeah.